Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are at the start of the free agency period in the 2031 to 2032 offseason. It's been a good playthrough over the decade that we've been playing with these Kansas City Royals. You can see we've kind of got the budget up to mid-pack. We are no longer a small market team, technically, as some commenters like to remind me. You can see that the budget back in 2023 was $154 million, and it's up to $238 million now. So that has really helped us. We're coming off a World Series victory, so fan loyalty is very good. Fan interest is excellent. And we've got over $40 million to spend on free agents. Now, we don't have as much for extensions, so we can probably sign one pretty high-quality free agent to a longer-term contract. And then if we want to spend the rest of our money, we'll just have to find people willing to do one-year deals. The reason for that is that Caleb Lagerwell's got a raise next season with a player option that he probably will refuse on the books. We've got a few players in arbitration that are going to be making more money. And then young superstar Alex Vasquez is set to go from the major league minimum to at least over $11 million next season. So that's why we've got more right now for free agents than we do for extensions. We did make some progress in the pre-free agency period. We re-signed two of our starting pitchers, Ben Borgman to a 6-year deal at $19.5 million, and Ricky Vanasco to a 5-year deal at $11 million for the first 4 years, and then a team option. So that brings back 4/5 of our rotation, along with Caleb Lagerwell and Gordon Graceffo, who were already signed. We do lose the veteran Aaron Nola, who finished 4th in the AL Cy Young Award voting last year, but still feel pretty good that we've got 80% of our starting rotation back. And no surprise for those of you who have been watching this series and know my focus on bringing in starting pitchers, but obviously Bobby Witt Jr. is the highest paid player on our team, and then the only other 4 players making $10 million a year or more are our 4 starting pitchers. So feel pretty good about the way that our rotation looks. And honestly, with bringing those 2 players back and with youngsters who may be coming up from AAA, we really don't need to spend any money on pitching this offseason. So we can focus completely with that $41 million on filling a couple holes on the team. Notably, we need a catcher. We need a middle infielder. And if you can start at second base, that would be the preference. And then most importantly, we need a starting corner outfielder after trading away Sal Frelick in the last few weeks. And then, unfortunately, after also losing most likely Jasmine Diaz to free agency. So Jasmine Diaz, Sal Frelick, and Junior Marin were the 3 players who kind of platooned between left field, right field, and DH for us at times last year, and we're losing 2 of those 3 starters. Would love to have Diaz back. He had an excellent year for us with a 157 OPS plus, but he's looking for about $30 million a year. Juan Soto, obviously out of our price range. Dylan Carlson, we could go after, but he's 33 years old, he's fragile, and he's looking for $26 million. He's going to require compensation. He's certainly with a 131 OPS plus and 130 WRC plus been a very productive player over the course of his career. If we decide to just go big among the outfielders to fill that corner outfield spot, he would be one option. And you can see it gets pretty thin pretty quick. Brennan Davis has got some decent power, good in the clubhouse. But he's been an average offensive player, quite honestly, over the course of his career. And he's looking for $5.5 million. So he would be a decent option as a 4th outfielder, but I don't know that we want to be starting him every day. Jared Kalanick, another guy to think about. Profiles as a bit above average offensively, great personality, solid defensive outfielder in left or right. But you look over the course of his career, and he quite honestly has only been a little bit above average in terms of his productivity. And he's looking for $19 million a year. So there's just not great options out there. Kind of turning to second base, it's a bit similar. If we want to go to the top of the market, Deandre, it is a incredible player, but at $44 million a year, he's out of our price range, obviously, unless we make big moves. But he is a Gold Glove quality shortstop with a really good bat. Obviously, a great player. You can see by the amount of hardware that he's won already, and he's only 27 years old. But can't really afford him. And then you start getting into Trey Turner, Ketel Marte, Corey Seager, older guys, not in the best physical condition, who are looking for $23, $24 million a year. Ketel Marte is a little tempting at second base. He would be one option. He's 38 years old, but he's coming off 2 straight seasons where he put up a 128 OPS plus. So it looks like his bat is still good. He would be a decline defensively from Ricardo Cabrera at second base, but would certainly be an upgrade offensively. I don't know that I want to be giving him a 4-year contract, though. And then we start getting into more utility kind of players. Willie Adams, pretty versatile. He could potentially play second base over Cabrera. Love the fact that he's an Ironman as far as his injury proneness. But he's looking for a 3-year deal also. I just don't know that we want to give that to someone who's going to be 37 by the end of next season. So perhaps not surprisingly, doesn't look like there's a ton of great options for us. And then when we go to the catchers, the top of the market, a lot of attractive players: Tyler Stevenson, Francisco Alvarez, Diego Cartaya, Will Smith, and our longtime starting catcher who we did not resign, MJ Melendez. But you can see they're all looking for $16, $20, $24, $25 million a year. Big bucks. We do have the youngster Angelo Bolden, who bats left-handed, who could take over for us as our starting catcher next year. So there is a thought, if we don't want to go for one of the really top-end catchers, maybe we bring on a guy who can bat right-handed. Kind of most interested in Ivan Herrera, who's acceptable defensively, and at least looking at his ratings, does hit a little better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. We could potentially platoon him with Bolden, but I'm honestly not sure that I want to be spending $6 million a year for a catcher who, in a perfect scenario, we're going to be playing 50 or 60 games. That seems like a bit of a luxury for the Royals. So I am glad that we brought back Vanasco and Borgman, because if you look at starting pitching, the prices for the starting pitchers and the quality that's out there just is not that great. Our buddy Aaron Nola now is looking for $22 million, and then a lot of players coming off injuries looking for 10, 12, 14 million for kind of average type pitchers. So I think that given my focus on starting pitching, bringing back both Vanasco and Borgman was the right move to make. When I look at what's really out there in free agency, even at the other positions, there's a part of me that thinks I just should have signed Jasmine Diaz before he hit free agency. He's looking for $30 million now for 9 years. Boy, he is really parlaying that big year we had into he had with us into big money. I probably could have signed him for 25-ish million before he hit free agency. But if we had done that, that would be the only move that we can make, because you see it would have used up all the money for extensions. We'd have about $15, $16 million that we could use to sign players to 1-year contracts. But it's likely to be February or March before we're going to have too many players who are interested in just signing for 1 year, and there's no guarantee about the quality of the players that will be there at that point. So We've got three obvious goals: starting outfielder, and then a catcher and a utility infielder. If the catcher is a starter, even better. If the utility infielder can start at second base, even better. But I think the primary thing we need to focus on is which outfielder to bring on for big money. And as I said, I'm focusing on outfield because that's our biggest need, where we clearly need a player who will be starting for us. There's not a lot of good options, though. Dylan Carlson, I like the bat, but he's 33 years old and he's fragile. And he's looking for a 7-year deal at $26 million a year. Seems kind of high to me. I don't mind Brennan Davis, but I prefer him more as a fourth outfielder. He's got some pop, doesn't hit for much average at all. Wouldn't want to be starting him every day. But if 2 months from now he's still on the market and he's willing to sign a 1-year deal rather than the 3 years he's looking for, he could work. Cody Bellinger is actually kind of similar. He's fragile physically. He's 36 years old. Doesn't hit for much average anymore, as you can see over the past 3 years, 209, 222, and 211. But he's competent defensively. He's still got a little bit of pop in the bat. He's looking for over $7 million a year, and he's looking for a 3-year deal. You know, if either Bellinger or Davis are still on the market in February and looking to do a 1-year deal and we've got money, would love to bring one of them on board a few months from now. But that doesn't solve the problem of who our starter is going to be. And the last is kind of Kalanick. But he's looking for 7 years at $19 million a year. He's already 32 years old. And as I mentioned, he's barely been a little bit above league average. I just can't see myself spending close to $20 million a year on a player who is going to go out and hit 250 with 22 homers and 25 doubles in a base case scenario. I just don't see that being the right move. So what I think I'm going to do is check out who's on the trade block in the outfield, and there's not really much of anything at all, because we're just at the beginning of the off season. Everyone thinks they've got a lot of money. Everyone thinks they're going to be a contender next year. You know, Brandon Marsh is good defensively, but not much of a hitter. I guess the last option we can do is search for a potential trade partner. I've got money to spend. It's just a matter of so I can certainly take on a unattractive contract from somebody. It's just a matter of kind of finding out how much I'm going to have to give up. I don't want to kind of strip our farm system, which at this point, where are we ranked? Kind of rebuilt on the fly, largely because we happened to just discover Maxime de la Cruz, the second best prospect in baseball, a year and a half ago. So there's certainly some luck involved in that, but I will say in our defense that certainly investing heavily in scouting, and also having a scout who is legendary at international scouting increases the likelihood that we find a player like that. But regardless, we're up to the fifth minor league system in baseball, so we're in a pretty good spot. I don't want to trade away 2 of our top 100 prospects, which would be 2 of our top 5 prospects, just to bring on an aging outfielder. But if there's something out there, I just don't love the options available in free agency right now. We either have to spend a lot of money on an aging player or get a guy who we really don't want to have as a starter. So maybe there's something we can do in trade. All right, we did a player search for left fielders who have acceptable defense, are a little above average in terms of contact and power, average-ish eye, and just decent speed. And you can see there's only about 10 of them out there. Kalanick is on the list, but he's one of the least regarded. So we know we can get him in free agency for $19 million. Acuna Jr. is going to be way too expensive. Dylan Cruz, maybe. Gilbert Rosas from the Cubs, 24-year-old center fielder who is incredible defensively, incredible offensively, durable, just led the league in hits. What a player. I'm sure that there's nothing we can give for him. Yeah, even if we gave, let's see what happens if we give our best prospect, one of our best prospects, Bobby Cintrone, number 69 prospect in baseball, and we're still wasting their time, and there's nobody else we can even add. So don't think there's much to do there, although he's an incredible player. Riley Green from the Tigers. He's making a lot of money. We'd have to have them keep a little bit of the contract, given that he signed for several more years and no trade clause. He doesn't want to join us in Kansas City. Kyle Tucker, a little older. Hedbert Perez is another great 5-star player making huge money, but that's not going to happen. Alex Kenzel from the Marlins has been an above-average offensive player the last 2 years, only 26 years old. Profiles as an above-average offensive player for the course of his career. Yeah, nice, 119 OPS plus, 119 WRC plus. We give them Vasquez, they would do the deal, but at least there's someone on our team that they'd consider. I'm not going to give them Vasquez for the guy, but maybe we can build something for Kenzel. And he's making the major league minimum still this year, so I don't know if that's good or bad since we've got money to spend, and I'd like to spend it. Yeah, I've been trying to work out something for Kenzel, and the cost for him is going to be high. You can see we've got 3 prospects in the deal already, and we still need to add a pretty good player to make it work. Victor Almanza, shortstop, who was our 3rd-round pick back in 2029, looks like he could profile as a major league third baseman or second baseman. You wouldn't love him, but he looks like he could be a major league average hitter, respectable defensively. Jerry Terrell, who was a 5th-round pick a few years ago, profiles again as a solid major league outfielder. So he's certainly got some value and he's durable. And then we'd also have to throw in one of our top prospects, the number 92 prospect in baseball, Vinnie Tomei, who looks like he could be an excellent hitter. Doesn't really have a defensive position to play, but is durable as far as injury proneness. So, we're adding a top 100 prospect and 2 other players that definitely look like they could be solid major league starters. And we'd still have to add another pretty valuable player to get the deal done. So Kenzel is obviously further along than any of these people, and we'd have him under control for this season plus 3 arbitration years with a good bat. So there's definitely value there, but it's going to strip a lot out of our farm system to get a deal done. So I'm just not sure if that's the right way to go, but it's good to know that we can get him if we decide that's the right direction over somebody like, Jared Kalanick. But I think we may have found the answer. Dylan Cruz from the Red Sox. He's making $24.2 million a year for the next 3 years, so he will just barely fit in under the amount we have for extensions. You can see profiles is an above-average player. He's going to turn 30 before the start of the season, but he's normal with his injury proneness. And over the course of his career, he's put up a 123 OPS plus, 121 WRC plus, coming off of the best season of his career by far when he hit 319 with 41 homers, 132 ribbies. You can see he had never really approached any of those numbers before. So coming off of a career season. But when I just went and looked at what it would take to trade for him, the Red Sox are way over the salary, or not over the salary cap, but they don't have any budget space available. Basically, they're hamstrung and they can't do anything this off season, and they'll take some pretty good players for him, but they'll also take like this guy here, Juan Olmos, who's a catcher. He did hit 309 in Double-A last year, but you look at the profile and he's, a solid defensive catcher with a nice arm, but he's never going to hit at the major league level. And they would take him straight up. I think it's just because they can't do anything this offseason and they've got to get his contract off the books. Oh, yeah, see, it's just about getting the contract off the books, because if we just try to get them to keep 10% of his money, you can see they're looking for a big-time player in return. So this is just a pure salary dump by the Red Sox because they're in such a difficult financial situation. So their loss could be our gain. I guess the issue is, can we get them to even keep 5% of his salary? I mean, if we add in this guy, Bobby Bueno, who looks like a average-ish hitter at best, first baseman, he's 25 years old. He did hit 326 with 20 homers in Double-A ball last year. He's durable injury proneness. I don't know if it's worth throwing him in to get them to just keep $1.2 million of Cruz's salary. I mean, I don't think he's got a big-time future with us with Juan Palomares and, of course, Alex Vasquez, also very young and ahead of him at first base, so we don't really have any need for him. But I just don't know that getting them to take $1.2 million of his salary works. And then even if we click it up another notch to 10%, we've got to add in pretty valuable players or pretty decent. So we don't have to give up much to get Cruz. So I guess the question is giving up one or two players for Dylan Cruz at $24 million a year with his OPS plus, hopefully in the 120 area. Is that better for us to do than to be paying about $5 million less for Kalanick, who's older and just kind of a league average offensive player? I think Cruz is certainly worth the $5 million a year extra. He's a better player. He's younger. I would definitely pay $5 million a year for him because we're definitely going to get, nothing's definite, but we will most likely get above average offensive production from Cruz, where it's very conceivable that Jared would just give us average offensive production. So as far as improving the offense, I think Cruz definitely does that. And I just don't like the free agents that are out there and the money we have to spend, and the fact that the Red Sox are so messed up financially that they just want to get rid of him. It makes me think that's the way to go. Now again, he's going to be $24.2 million, so that's going to leave us with like $2 million for extension. So essentially it means that we can't sign anyone else to more than a 1-year contract unless it's, a $1 million middle infielder or something, which really isn't that exciting. So I guess I'd like to get them to keep a little bit of his contract if possible. But like I said, it seems like 40%. Yeah, what have you been smoking? We'd have to give Alex Vasquez. So yeah, this is just a pure salary dump by the Red Sox. So maybe it's the right opportunity for us. I guess the other thing to consider, I don't know. I thought there was something else to consider and I lost it. If we can get them to hold on a little bit of his contract, it gives us a little more flexibility to maybe add a second player this offseason who we can sign to more than a one-year deal, but it's not going to be a big-time player. If we make this trade, we're basically sitting on our hands for the next 2 or 3 months and then just seeing who's on the market in February as spring training's beginning, or even when spring training is going on, and who's willing to sign a one-year contract to be our catcher and or second baseman / shortstop. So it'll definitely hamstring our entire offseason if we bring Cruz on board at that kind of money. But I still think it might be the right thing to do. I really like Alex Kenzel from the Marlins, who is only 25 years old, and he's put up similar broad offensive numbers to Cruz over the course of his career. He's 3 years younger. He's a lot more cost effective, but we have to give up one of our top prospects plus 3 other good, solid prospects who are probably going to be major league players for him. And then it's great that he makes the major league minimum, but that still leaves us with $40 million to spend this offseason and really nobody that we're excited to spend it on. So I think given that Boston needs to dump this salary, Cruz is the way to go. We can get them to retain 5% of his salary, which isn't much, but it cuts it from $24.2 million down to $23 million. If we include Olmos, who I'm happy to include, again, I think Bobby Bueno is probably worth more than $1.2 million a year. He profiles as an average offensive player, but he's an average offensive player who doesn't have a defensive position to play, and he can't play in the outfield. It's great that he's durable, but he's basically a glorified 250 pinch hitter. Kicking it up to 10%, they start wanting to look for a real big-time player or a real big-time prospect. So that just shows how desperate they are to get rid of this salary. But I think I'm going to still try to push my luck and get them to hold on to 10% and submit the offer to them. Maybe they'll just go for it because that still clears almost all of the money they need to clear up their budget space. Or maybe they'll come back and want us to add in a third player that is a little more palatable from our perspective than the kind of guys they're looking for. I feel like I'm pushing the envelope a little bit because I feel like the exact kind of player we need has just fallen into our lap. So I don't want to blow up this deal and have it fall apart and then find out that they won't do it for Olmos and Bueno. But if they can keep $2.4 million of his contract, that puts it down to $21.8 million a year. And then we've got $3.5, $4 million to potentially play with for extensions for people, which means that obviously we're going to have to focus on one-year contracts, but we may be able to sign that backup catcher or that backup middle infielder to a 2 or 3 year deal, which could put us a little more in play for a player like that. So we're going to submit the offer here, and we'll see what the Red Sox have to say. This would be the big move of our offseason if we're able to pull this trade off. And Boston says almost, so we have to add more. Alex Cervantes is a pretty good prospect. Leo Aguiar, decent prospect. Israel Gutierrez. Bob Williams could end up being our closer this year. Jorge Lebron is one of the top prospects in our system. Victor Almanza, good prospect. Jerry Terrell, good prospect. Ishmael Zavala, Juan Palomares, and then Sal Stewart, who we just traded for. So they really don't want to take on any contract. Before we respond to the message, I'm just going to see if we can recreate the deal that we were trying to create and just submit that to them and get them to accept it. I hope I didn't overthink this. Okay, Bueno and Olmos are still both in it. We push it up to 5%. We can still add Bueno, push it up to 10% they need. So I'm just going to do granted, it's only been 1 day, so hopefully things wouldn't change that much on their front. But I don't want to give up one of those better players to only get them to retain another $1.2 million. So we are going to go ahead and complete this trade. Fans pleased that we brought on Dylan Cruz, which actually will be important. You can see that didn't change our fan interest. It's still the max 100. But given that we are going to be losing a lot of pretty popular players this offseason, any boost that we can get is positive. We've already talked about the fact that among the free agents, we haven't talked about Josh Hader, but we're going to lose our closer, who's extremely popular. We're going to be losing Aaron Nola, who's extremely popular. We're going to be losing our starting second baseman, Corey Seager, who's very popular. And we're going to be losing our starting catcher, MJ Melendez, who's extremely popular, loyalty. Our fan interest is going to take a big hit over the next coming weeks as the off-season moves on. So we're also trying to jam our ticket price up pretty significantly given the bump we got in fan loyalty and the great fan interest. So hopefully bringing Mr. Cruz on board helps a little bit. Put him right onto the major league roster, and you can see we've got about $4 million for extensions left with the 5% that they kept, $18 million for free agents. So that's our big free agent signing for this offseason, the trade. But it filled our biggest hole. We've got a real legitimate bat out there in the outfield now. And it's not a long-term deal, 3 more years, $24.2 million a year. A little more than I'd like to pay, but when you look at, so we're going to be paying him $23 million a year, obviously, with what Boston retained. A little more than I'd like to pay, but when you look at what the options were in free agency, I think this was the best trade possible, and I like it better than anything we had possible in free agency. So I think it was the right move for these Royals because we are still playing for it all next year. Could be our last year with Caleb Lagerwell if he exercises that player option. So with Borgman and Vanasco back and now Cruz in the lineup to hopefully replace the hitting that Diaz did, the goal is to make another run at the playoffs and hopefully another world championship. So we are absolutely still all in on the 2032 season here in the early stages of the 2031-2032 offseason. So now as we think about catcher, obviously the only way we're going to get one of those top catchers is if one of them is on the market 2 or 3 months from now and willing to sign for less money and a 1-year deal. So I think that's pretty unlikely. Ivan Herrera might be the goal, but as I talked about, I don't want to spend $6 million for a guy who's going to be a backup catcher and play 50 or 60 games for us if everything goes according to plan and Bolden stays healthy. So I'm going to hold tight on the catcher market and just kind of see what happens. Second base, I just don't love the options that are out there. Luis Arias definitely can hit for batting average. He's not great defensively. He's wrecked physically. He's not looking for a lot of money, though. Is he looking for years? He's only looking for a one-year deal. The Landers have submitted a good offer. I guess that must be some foreign team. 1.6 million for him. Oh, maybe it's a Korean team. Over his major league career, he's been absolutely just a purely average offensive player, although he does have that 291 batting average. I don't know if he's a good enough hitter that he would start over Cabrera, and I don't know that he's good enough defensively that we really want him as our backup to second base, third base, and shortstop. So I think we probably wait there also. There is one other player that I looked at, though. Francisco Lindor, only looking for 3.6 million. He is good defensively. He's only played shortstop. The bat is just not there anymore. 203 and 196 batting averages the last couple years with the Mets at the end of that contract. And he certainly profiles as a below average offensive player. Slightly below average, but below average at this point. How many years is he looking for? Yeah, he's only looking for 1 year also. But I just don't feel like I want to chase after any of these guys. I kind of want the market to come to us. So, in a worst case scenario, we do have guys in our system, potential. Actually, maybe he's still on the major league roster. Aiden Harris, who made his major league debut in the playoffs for us last year. He could certainly fill that utility infielder role. Now, he would definitely be the backup to Cabrera, but he can play a competent second or third base. He certainly can play first base. He profiles as maybe a close to a league average hitter. Doesn't have great speed, but he could be our utility infielder if we need next year. If him and Palomares are kind of our backup infielders, I think we could do worse than that. Clearly, in a perfect world, we want someone who can take over at second base for Ricardo Cabrera. But if we have to use Harris as our backup, that's okay. Catcher is the bigger hole. We don't have someone in Omaha who's ready. You go down to, actually, you can see by the number of players we have on these teams that we let a lot of free agents go this offseason. So we're kind of going to have some work to do to fill all of these rosters when we get closer to the beginning of the season. We've got the veteran Ross Highfill, who finally saw some action in Omaha last year and only hit a .134. Average-ish defensive catcher, good personality, not much of a hitter. He could be our backup catcher if we needed. And then a little more interesting for the long term is Leo Aguiar down in high A ball. 24 years old, really good defensively, although not much of an arm, and profiles as a certainly below average hitter, but not horribly below average. But he's never been above A ball, and he only hit 245 in high A last year. So between Aguiar or Ross Highfill, I feel like we could fill the backup catcher position in a pinch if we needed to. I think the hope is that someone on this list of shortstops or second basemen and someone on this list of catchers just kind of lingers out on the free agent market for the next couple months, and then we can get him for less money and less years, in many cases maybe a 1 year deal, and see who we can bring on board. So we're probably going to be just simming ahead for the time being. I think we've done our heavy lifting, even though it's only November 21st with the big trade. And here in early December, the first of many departures has taken place. Fans shocked we didn't keep Aaron Nola on the team. $16.2 million for a one-year deal to go back to the Phillies at the age of 38, coming off that rotator cuff strain. Wish him the best of luck with them. Thank him for his contributions to the World Championship team, but there was no way we were going to be paying him that kind of money. Fortunately, our fan interest was so high that even with the hit we took from him, we're still at 100. So that makes me feel good that the signing of Cruz helped push us way over 100. So I'm sure if in the coming weeks when we lose Melendez, in Hader, in Seager, and a few other players, Diaz would be the other big one, that we'll take some more hits to fan interest, but hopefully we can kind of keep it above 90 when all is said and done. And we're getting ready for the Rule 5 draft in a couple weeks, and we've actually got a few of the top prospects in our system who are now Rule 5 eligible. We just added shortstop Aragetto Lazioli, who's out with a broken bone in his elbow, but you can see profiles as a decent and versatile defensive player who may have a little bit of a bat. We had to put him on the roster. And then Rich Alvarado, the number 89 prospect in baseball, also coming off of an injury. Going to need to add him. Victor Aguiar certainly profiles as potentially an above-average hitter with some pop. We're not going to want to lose him. And then Tony Fonseca, shortstop, who was in our international free agent signing a little over 5 years ago, still looks like he could be an excellent utility infielder. Great defensively, going to be able to play anywhere in the infield. Could also play, pretty good at any outfield position, including center field. Doesn't profile as having much of a bat, but he's not going to strike out much, and he's going to make enough contact with that good durability that although you probably don't want to be starting him regularly, you could start him at just about any position on the field, and he's going to be an incredible defensive substitute, just a versatile player for injuries. So definitely want to add all three of them to the secondary roster so there's no risk of us losing any of them in the Rule 5 draft. And then honestly, we talked a little while ago about Leo Aguiar. With that 70 catcher ability and the fact that he looks like he could be a close to average major league hitter, even though he's 24 years old and he hasn't made it above high A ball, he could potentially, if we can't find a catcher this offseason, end up spending some time with the major league team over the course of this year. So we're going to have to add him to the 40-man roster too. That's kind of it as far as the players with, 3-star potential. But you can see there's a bunch of 2.5-star potential players, but, a lot of them are older players. Jose Lozano is a guy who's been asked for in some trades. Incredible stamina, but without that changeup developing, doesn't look like he's going to be anything more than a relief pitcher at this point. Like the personality, but he's only 23 years old and already fragile. I don't think there's any need to protect him. I have a hard time believing any team's going to be able to keep him on the roster for the whole year. And then Parker Coyle is a 27-year-old. Had him in Omaha the last 2 years. He's been fine down there. He is a lefty. I guess there's an argument to keep him and Eric Lindor on the 40-man roster just as kind of 4A guys who would be down in Omaha and able to come up and join the team if we had any injury issues. But neither of them is so great that losing them to the Rule 5 is going to bother me all that much. And our longtime catcher, who has been on this team for 10 years, along with Bobby Witt Jr., is gone. MJ Melendez signed with the Blue Jays, $13.3 million a year for 3 years with a vesting option for the 4th year. So sorry to see him go. The fans are disappointed. Players are disappointed too. He has that great personality, has been a leader in the clubhouse. We do get compensation for him with the supplemental second-round pick. You may remember from our last episode, we were kind of torn as to whether to offer him the qualifying offer of close to $19 million a year, because we really didn't want to pay him $19 million for 1 year, but we figured he wouldn't accept it, and he didn't end up accepting it. So disappointing that MJ Melendez is gone, and you can see that as, we're at the point now where the departures of other popular players are going to impact fan interest negatively, so that's not positive. The money for extensions has gone up. What is going on with that? So like a different arbitration estimate for somebody? Alex Vasquez is still at $11.2 million. That was the big one. Not really sure what prompted that, unless because we've started selling. Maybe it's because since we're on pace to sell so many season tickets, they're expecting us to get kind of a bump to budget next year, and that's factored in now. I'm not really sure. I'm just guessing at that. But the nice thing is that does give us the flexibility now to sign somebody to a longer deal. Looking at the outfielders, looks like one of the guys we were thinking about as a potential backup outfielder in Cody Bellinger is gone. Brennan Davis is still out there. Dylan Carlson and Jasmine Diaz are out there too. It would be kind of funny if we ended up signing Jasmine Diaz to a 1-year contract for a second straight year. Catcher, the big guys are kind of going away. Herrera's still out there. His asking price is down to $5.5 million. And then the second baseman and the shortstops, Corey Seager is still out there. Willie Adams is out there. It looks like a couple of the other guys we were thinking about bringing on, including Francisco Lindor, are gone. Braylon Minier, he could be a decent option as a infielder, but he's still looking for $27 million, so we're a long way away from him being the answer for us, but obviously would be a nice add for us. Look at the guys who can only play second base. There might be a couple other names out there to think about. Nothing too exciting, quite honestly. We'll see how the market develops over the coming weeks and months, but I don't think there's any point in chasing anything yet. Worst case scenario, we can put a little more money into our scouting and development budgets for the next year, and we could pump a little more money into our draft budget. Actually, we could pump a lot of money into our draft budget, which would give us that opportunity when you get to kind of the 4th or 5th round and there's a first or second round talent that's still lingering because they're looking for just an insane amount of money. That would be another option for us as we head into the next season if we can't spend all of this money on free agents. So I think at this point we're just going to be patient and let the offseason come to us. Another day, another big-time piece of the World Championship team gone. Josh Hader is gone. Signed with the Mets for almost $12 million a year. Only a 2-year deal, so it was more reasonable than what he was looking for. That costs us another 3 points in fan interest. So we still got a couple more hits coming. We're still going to lose Corey Seager, and we're still going to lose Jasmine Diaz. Those are the last two players that I can think of that are probably going to have a negative impact on fan interest as we continue to move along towards 2032. And another shoe is dropped with the departure of Corey Seager. The fans really upset about that. Let's see what that ends up being. Dropped to a 92 fan interest, so not optimal, but we knew it was coming. Players disappointed, but still think that we've got some players with good leadership. But certainly the losses of both Melendez and Seager is definitely going to have an impact on the clubhouse. So it's not optimal, but we knew it was going to happen. And we're now at the start of the Rule 5 draft. We haven't added anyone else to the 40-man roster, so there is a possibility we may lose some of those 4A pitchers, but we'll probably be able to pick up some 4A pitchers in the draft here too. So let's see who's available when it gets to us. You can see a few 3-star players out there, mostly relief pitchers. Scouting director recommends that we go after Angel Galindo, 25-year-old. Actually not a horrible player. He's fragile, but pretty good on the base paths. He can bunt. He's got a good personality, good work ethic. And the bat is not horrible. He's never played in the majors. The issue is he's not that good defensively. We could play him in left field if we had to. Could play him at second or first. He's listed as a shortstop, but we don't want to play him there. He's a pure bat. It looks like he could be a bit above average as far as a bat, but he just doesn't really have anywhere to play. But he's not the worst player in the world. Kind of intriguing. And there's a ton of relief pitchers out here. Davis Carballo here is durable. Not good work ethic. He's a 2-pitch guy, but he's certainly a more than acceptable left-handed reliever. He's durable. He's not really any better against lefties than he is against righties, though. I kind of like the guys who have those really favorable splits. Ben Onishku, who I think we talked about in the Rule 5 draft a few years ago, back available, making a lot of money. Probably not the way to go. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm intrigued by Angel Galindo. I don't know that he's going to make the 26-man roster, but I'm willing to bring him to camp at a major league minimum salary and see what we've got. Like I said, I think the fact that he just doesn't really have a position to play limits his value, but I think he can hit at the major league level. I mean, he hit 293 in Double-A, 288 in Triple-A last year. Oh, he was all over the place. Only 223 in Single-A, then 255 in Double-A. Then it looks like he was traded to the Mets from Baltimore and hit better in Triple-A and Double-A for them. We'll bring him on board. Let's see here in the second round. Doesn't think we should take anybody. I'm going to take a look through the relievers here, just see if there's anyone worth taking a flyer on. I'm guessing probably nothing too exciting. Yeah, I don't think there's anything for us to do in this second round of the Rule 5. Some decent relievers in here. You can see they're all kind of 3-star guys, but a lot of them are making $3, $4, $5, even $6 million a year. Just don't want to kind of wrap up that kind of money, even temporarily, in a player that would be our 12th or 13th pitcher if they make the roster. Probably won't make the roster, and bringing them on board would cut into some of the money that we potentially have to sign people for extensions when we get further along in spring training. So we are just going to go ahead and finish up the Rule 5 draft, auto draft the rest of the way. Take a look at the summary here, and you can see we made the acquisition of Angel Galindo. A few other players picked. Nobody picked out of our system. So we are headed towards Christmas time and New Year 2032 in the coming week. And the calendar is now flipped to 2032, so we're just going to check in on the free agent market. You can see there's not too much top quality talent left. Our guy Jasmine Diaz still looking for over $30 million a year. He's one of the last big players on the market, and he's still looking for 9 years, $30 million plus. I think it's plausible that he ends up signing a one-year deal like he did with us last season. Now, I don't think he's going to sign for less than $10 million, which is what we got him for. I think it was at $9.5 million last year. He'll definitely get a bigger contract than that. Tyler Stevenson, the top catcher who's still out there, solid defensive player, you know, a little bit below average in terms of his offensive production. Honestly, he's kind of similar to MJ Melendez, a little older, not quite as good an arm. He's still looking for $18 million over 5 years. That's certainly not a deal we're going to go for. Nick Miklojicek, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Really nice profile, just incredible stuff. Closer, 34-year-old looking for $15.5 million. You know, if the prices come down on any of those players, I guess it's possible. Brennan Davis is still out there. You know, right now in the outfield, we got Cruz in left, Vasquez in center, and Marin in right. And then Fabricio Valera is kind of our fourth outfielder, and I think it would probably be Jackson Chorio or Nazir Muley would be our fifth outfielder. So a guy like Brennan Davis definitely could have a role on the team. You know, he can play a good right or left. He can play center if he has to. Good leader and like that home run power, even though he doesn't hit for a great average. He's still someone to keep on the radar, but obviously backup catcher or starting catcher is a bigger need. Ivan Herrera, who we've kind of targeted in the back of our minds, still looking for $5.5 million in 3 years, just not the type of salary I want to give to a backup catcher. And then looking at the infield position, do we have someone who's better than Ricardo Cabrera still out there? Probably not. I guess offensively Braylon Minier would be, but he's still a $26 million player. We're not going to go there. Our old buddy Zach DeCenzo, who had a monster season finally with Baltimore, 41 homers, even though he hit .222. Boy, that says it all about Zach DeCenzo. 41 homers and 107 ribbies, and he's still kind of below average as far as his OPS plus and his WRC plus. But he's got some pop. He can play a lot of positions defensively, even though he's not necessarily great at them. It'd be interesting if he's the guy we end up bringing back as a utility infielder. You know, kind of searching on shortstops, a little bit of a different opportunity set, but still broadly similar. You know, Willie Adams, he's probably the most interesting. I don't want to be spending $7.8 million on a utility infielder, but he can hit a little bit. He can play second, third, and short competently. Good clubhouse guy. Again, I don't want him for 3 years, and I don't want him at close to $8 million a year. But there's still players for us to keep an eye on over the next couple of months. And the final shoe is dropped. Jasmine Diaz has found a contract. Got pretty good money from the Guardians, a lot less than he was looking for, but $21.8 million a year for 6 years. So that's a nice contract for him. Fortunately, we did make the qualifying offer to him, and he's worth a supplemental first-round pick. So both of the players we made qualifying offers to, Melendez and Diaz, got signed. We get a first-rounder for Diaz and a second-rounder for Melendez. So that is good news. You know, fan interest has now dipped to 89 with his departure. So we had hoped to keep it above 90, but we knew that with the kind of 5 pretty key players that we were going to be losing in free agency, that we would take some hits there. But we've still got money to bring people on board. Once it gets into February, we're going to see if the asking prices of any of our potential prospects have come down at all. And it's now February 9th, so let's check in and see what's going on with the free agent market. Broadly, Tyler Stevenson is still out there at catcher. Brennan Davis is still out there among the outfielders. Brennan Davis's number is down to 4.4 million. That could be something to think about as far as a fourth or fifth outfielder. It would potentially push Nazir Muley, who came up last year and hit decently with a couple big hits in the playoffs, or likely Jackson Chorio, potentially off of the major league roster. But he would give us a little insurance if Marin, who's fragile, gets banged up. Would be nice in the clubhouse. He's someone to think about. Tyler Stevenson at catcher is starting to intrigue me at that kind of money. Great personality. Hits a little better against left-handers than against right-handers, but, he would be the starting catcher over Angelo Bolden. And I guess my issue is, do I want to potentially slow Bolden's development into finding out exactly what he is by putting him behind somebody? Stevenson's still looking for multiple years. Yeah, he's still looking for a 4-year deal. So the annual number's getting a little more decent, but still don't know that I want to lock him up that long. Ivan Herrera is out there, and he's down to 3.2 million. It might be time to think about pulling the trigger on him to platoon with Bolden. He's a little better against left-handers than he is against righties, but just marginally. It's really just his eye and his avoiding strikeouts is a little better. Otherwise, his splits are fairly even. He's acceptable defensively. Generally would like to have at least a 60 catcher ability, but we can live with a 55 in our backup catcher. Tyler Soderstrom is a better bat, but I don't want a 40 catcher ability as a backup. Carter Binns is kind of interesting. Good personality, not much of a hitter, but good, solid defensively. I may offer him a minor league contract just to see if we can have him in AAA as an insurance policy. And still got to think about whether we want to do anything with Feliciano. Looking at the infield situation. Willie Adams is down to 5.5 million. He would be a nice utility infielder who could back up Cabrera at second, Witt at third, and Lopez at shortstop adequately. Lopez is also getting up there in years. $5.5 million is still a lot for a utility infielder. He is only looking for a 1-year deal now. That's something to think about. Could we potentially bring on Adams on a 1-year deal? Herrera on a 1-year deal, and then also bring in a Brennan Davis on a 1-year deal. Oh, Cody Bellinger is still out there. Oh, our scout, he was a 3 out of 3 star player, and apparently with scouting reports, we think he's only a 2.5 star player now. So we've got both Bellinger and Brennan Davis out there as potential 4th or 5th outfielders. Both pretty good clubhouse presences. Not the worst thing in the world to bring one of those guys on the team, but since they are both still out there, I think we can potentially keep trying to wait. And our old friend Joey Gallo still out there, not surprisingly. Highest batting average since 2025 is 221 back in 2025. Whew. rough. We've got almost $19 million, so we've got the potential to make some one-year offers now. Jordan Lawler's also interesting just because he's so good defensively. He's wrecked physically, not much of a bat, but we wouldn't be playing him every day. But he's still looking for pretty big money also. I think we're going to wait another week and see if prices come down. I think between Lawler and Adams, there's option at second base. We've talked about the options at the outfield, and that's less of a need, obviously, after the big trade for Cruz. I think Herrera is still going to sit out there for a while. His price may come down. We could always go crazy and try to bring on Stevenson, but let's see what happens with Carter Binns in that minor league contract. He's kind of such a poor hitter that I don't know that we even want him as our backup, but if he's our AAA catcher and kind of the third guy, if we have any injuries, you could definitely do worse than that if we can get him signed to a minor league deal. And we did get Carter Binns signed, so that gives us some organizational depth at AAA. Positive to have him on board. We don't need him in the ACL, so we will put him up to AAA Omaha. And another week has gone by. Herrera is actually looking for a little more money than he was before. Stevenson's still $12 million. Looking at the second baseman, Adams' price has come down a little bit. And then looking at the outfielders, Brennan Davis and Cody Bellinger still both out there. I think it's time to start making offers. Spring training is going to be starting in just 3 days. I guess the only question is, do we want to kind of spread the money across those 3 players or try to sign Big Nick? 34-year-old has been a 144 ERA plus, 76 FIP minus, and a 2.18 Sierra over the course of his career. You can see he's been a closer the whole time. I feel like with the youngster Bob Williams, with R.J. Dabovich, even with Wiesenberger, who we brought back, we've got guys who could close for us, but no one who's been proven. Mikulajic would be a really big upgrade. Is he willing to do a 1-year deal at this point? Nope. Still 11.6 for 3 years. Well, we're going to anger him. We're going to offer him $9 million. Actually, we'll make it 2 years, but we're going to put a team option on it. I don't think there's any way he's going to go for this. And we're going to take out that no trade clause that he wants. So there's a lot of optionality in this contract for us. I think it's probably too low, but we'll see what he thinks. Whoa. He's actually willing to think about it. All right. If we can get a closer for $9 million, that still gives us, we've still got $9.6 million to potentially play with for catcher, middle infield, and a 4th or 5th outfielder. So we won't be able to fill all 3 of those holes, but we could potentially still fill 2 of those with the money that we have. And with Binns, we've at least got a backup catcher option if we decide. Honestly, I think we might move on from the middle infielders. As I talked about earlier, we've got the option of giving Aiden Harris a chance at the major league level as kind of our utility infielder this year. 2nd round pick from back in 2024. Jackson Chorio, who may end up being a backup outfielder, could also be kind of a utility infielder. He can play 1st or 3rd, although we really do need someone to back up 2nd and short. And then, yeah, I forgot we had picked up Angel Galindo in the Rule 5 draft, who's in the mix also. Again, he is not what we're looking for defensively, but he does have that interesting bat. So we don't necessarily have to chase the middle infielder as much. And I'm sure we can find a middle infielder when we get closer to the trade deadline. There will be somebody available. So we could just focus on a catcher and a fourth or fifth outfielder to give us some depth with the other $9 million or so that we've got. I don't love Ivan Herrera as a backup catcher. I do think he's better than Carter Binns, just due to the pop that his bat has. He's willing to do a minor league that becomes a major league contract. So that's good for us. I don't know that I want to give him $3.4 million. If we can get him for $2.5 million, I would definitely do a minor league that becomes a major leaguer if he ends up making the team. And he's willing to think about that. So that gives us some interesting optionality. And then I think it's time to maybe make an offer for one of those veteran outfielders, Brennan Davis or Cody Bellinger. Which one do we want is the big question. They're similar players. Brennan Davis is younger. Brennan Davis has normal durability, whereas Cody Bellinger is fragile at this point. Brennan Davis looking for a little more money. They're both solid defensively. They're both pretty good personalities. Belly's a left-handed batter. Brennan Davis is a right-handed batter. When you look at the rest of our outfielders, Cruz bats righty, Marin bats righty, Vasquez is a lefty, and Valera is a lefty. So we're already pretty evenly split with the outfielders. That should not be probably not be the deciding factor. Who do we have to back up in center? Vasquez is obviously our excellent starting center fielder. I think it's probably Marin, 50 range, 35 at playing the position. Cruz has never played center field before. Valera, not really capable. So probably the one who's better defensively in center field is the way to go. And I think that's going to probably push us towards Bellinger. Has the better range. He's played that position a lot over the course of his career. But Brennan Davis can play the position. Brennan Davis, league average hitter over the course of his career. Had a couple seasons that are better. Bellinger has obviously been well above average over the course of his career, but the last several years has had more of an average profile. He's looking for less money. Don't love the fact that Brennan Davis has no speed at all. I think, and then there's our old buddy Kyle Lewis, who was our center fielder for a lot of years. Just not too much of a hitter, although he's been better these last few years than he was when we had him in 2027. We did have him at the end of 2028 also, where he did play better for us, but probably time to move on from him permanently. Jay Allen's kind of interesting too. Kind of a selfish personality, but a little bit more of a balanced batting profile and still pretty good defensively. Kevin Alcantara, like the home run pop. He's actually not a bad player. Has been above average offensively the last couple years. Decent with the intangibles, competent in the outfield. He's not a bad option either. There's so many options out there I'm actually not going to push. I'd be happy with any of those guys as a fourth or fifth outfielder for us. So I think we can still wait a little bit, see what happens with the offers to Herrera and Mikolajek, and we got time to continue thinking about things. And good news here as we get to the start of spring training, both Herrera and Mikolajek, and I'm going to have to look up. I know that obviously the guy is in the majors right now in real life. Or maybe he's not. I guess he was still a prospect. He didn't actually make his... Well, maybe he's made his debut this year, and I don't know it. But I'll have to figure out how to pronounce his name correctly, so I will do that before the next episode. You don't need to correct me in the comments, but feel free to if you know how to pronounce it. But I will look that up and watch a video and figure out how to pronounce it correctly if he's going to be our closer for the whole season and possibly next year. So we are at the start of spring training and still waiting on catcher, still waiting on relief pitcher, looking at the outfielders, Davis, Allen, Lewis, Bellinger. They're all still out there, so we've got options to think about. Hopefully the prices keep coming down. Actually, Bellinger, it looks like, is down to $3.2 million. Would he be willing to take a minor league contract? I think it's probably going to just insult him, but actually I'm going to do that with both of these guys right now. Offer Brennan Davis and Cody Bellinger minor league contracts. I don't think either of them will accept it at this point. I wouldn't if I was in their case. There's still time for injuries in spring training. We still got over a month till the actual season begins. They can probably find work with a guaranteed major league contract. But if either of them was willing to sign a minor league contract with us, that just gives us even more optionality. So we'll put those offers out there as we begin spring training here in 2032. And as spring training begins, we've put a lot of guys onto the roster. You can see we got 20 pitchers in camp going with a 6-man rotation. Borgman, Lagerwell, Graceffo, Jacobs, Vanasco, and Bosma. And then looking at our starting lineups, we've got 27 position players in camp. And, Angel Galindo, the Rule 5 guy, is our DH against righties, which is interesting. Angelo Bolden and Carter Binns are platooning at catcher, which is fine, with Bolden, the youngster, getting the action against right-handers. Dylan Cruz looks like he's going to slot right in as our cleanup hitter against right-handed batters, so hopefully that'll be a good addition. Sal Stewart, who we picked up, looks like he could be a starting first baseman for us. Willie Flores, a young shortstop, is getting some action in right field, only 21 years old. We have him in camp even though he's never been above A-ball. Interesting that he's getting a little action here in the early stages of camp. Some more proven players. Juan Palomares not starting right now in camp. You can see we got a ton of outfielders. Junior Marin actually doesn't have a role right now, which is a bit surprising, but that could be because the youngster Flores is starting in right field and Fabricio Valera also getting some action. So looks like Marin may have taken a little bit of a step back, but, over the course of his 4 years, he's hit 30, 27, 28, and 31 home runs. Has been a well above average offensive player 3 of those 4 seasons. So I think he'll ultimately be fine, even if he's not going to get a ton of action at the start of spring training here. And some good news, Ivan Herrera signed that minor league deal. So between him and Carter Binns, I think we've got our backup catcher. It's just a matter of who we want to keep on the major league level. Brennan Davis, not interested in a minor league deal. Cody Bellinger, not interested in a minor league deal. Nick Mikolajek, Looks like he prefers the offer from the Braves. So that's interesting. That opens up some money for us. So we now can get a little more aggressive again. But good news that we did sign. Actually, he's gone right to the lowest level of the minors, which we don't want. We're going to put Ivan Herrera. Let's promote him to AAA Omaha, and then let's make sure that he is actually in camp with us. I would assume that he will move into the starting lineup against lefties rather than Carter Binns. Actually, he won't. That's going to be interesting. So hopefully he'll get a little playing time in camp. I would have thought that Herrera would be starting against lefties rather than Binns, but maybe it's just because I've been kind of targeting Herrera as our potential platoon catcher for so long. But with both of those guys on minor league contracts and Aguiar in the system, feel like we've definitely got a solid backup for Angelo Bolden out of the three of them. And then we can, stash some of them in AAA also. So very happy that we got the minor league contracts for them. And now it's time to start thinking about what to do with the rest of that cash we have. Big Nick, we offered him $9 million a year for 2 years. That's what he's asking for now. We're looking for $10.8 million a year now. He would be an important arm for us since we don't have a proven closer. Who is closing for us right now? Dabovich, who's had a really nice career for us. You can see, over these last 7 years, he's had an ERA above 3 times, in the 2s 3 times, and below 2 once, over the course of his career. 141 ERA plus, 82 FIP minus. He's never been an everyday closer with just 12 saves over the 8 years of his career, but he's been a very effective middle reliever for us. So if he has to close, that's not the end of the world. That's not going to break my heart. And then Bob Williams, the youngster from AAA who finally came up last year, is another player who could eventually be in the mix for closing for us. So I don't feel like we have to chase after Nick, although he would certainly be a nice addition to the team. And looking at the batters, Tyler Stevenson really stands out still. I mean, he'd be better than either of the catchers that we just picked up, but minor league contract versus $11 million, and a guy who's still looking for multiple years. I think at this point we want to give Bolden, the youngster, a chance to see what we really have in him. Backup infielder, I'm actually getting pretty comfortable with the fact that Harris is going to be that guy for us potentially. Or it still might not be Harris, because we also got to keep in mind that we've got the Rule 5 guy. And what position is he playing now? Is he turned into an outfielder? Yeah, Galindo. Oh, yeah, we force-started him in the outfield because we want to see what he is. Yeah, he's never going to be a very good defensive left fielder, but we wanted to try to give him a little bit of just see what we had and whether he could potentially be a left fielder for us, and it really doesn't look like he'll ever be that good out there, so we're going to stop force-starting him there, but at least we know what we've got with him out there now, and he can play left for us in a pinch if he needs to. But between Galindo and Chorio and Aiden Harris and even Rich Alvarado, the youngster, who's probably not quite ready, we've got our backup infielder. So I don't feel like we have to chase one of those guys. So that tells me that, and you can see we've got a ton of outfielders in camp too. Vasquez, Marin, Valera, and of course Cruz are 4 of those guys. They're all going to be on the Major League roster. It's just a matter of what do we want to do with that number 5 outfield spot, and do we want somebody proven? And I think with the amount of money that we have, we can still kind of do both. We can bring on one of the outfielders, and we can also make an offer for Nick. So we are going to try to bring him on board. I don't know if it's the $10.8 million he's looking for. He claims he's got a better offer from the Braves. But we'll give him 10.5. And I don't think we want to, I don't think we'll be picking up the team option for next year, but we've got the opportunity to do it if we need it. So we'll submit the offer to Mikolajak. Again, if he's on the team, I'll figure out how to pronounce it. Don't worry. And then we still got $4.6 million. And we've still got a lot of those outfielders out there. Bellinger is looking for a amount that he's a proven center fielder. I think we're going to make an offer to Cody Bellinger. Cincinnati's made him the best offer, but he'd rather play for us. Oh, thanks, Cody. We'll cut him down to $3 million. See, we're not going to promise him a role in the starting lineup, though. I don't know how he's going to feel about that. Yeah, I don't know that I want to promise you a starting position, Cody, because you're not going to have it. So maybe that pushes me towards Brennan Davis instead. Minor league okay, so he's willing to do a minor league that becomes guaranteed. We just don't have the money to pay him $5.4 million. But we could pay him $4.5 million, and there's no guarantee he's going to make the roster. Actually, I don't want to pay him that much. Let's just see what he thinks about a $4 million contract. Minor league with the major league option. He's willing to think about it. All right, so we've got offers out there to Brennan Davis and Big Nick to be our closer. And that's using up just about all the money that we've potentially got. So we'll see what happens with those offers. And the market for Nick is heating up. He liked our offer, but now he's just let us know that he's got an offer from New York, the Mets. The money he's looking for doesn't seem crazy, though. Cody did sign with Cincinnati, but we did get Brennan Davis signed to that option. So good to have him in camp now. Let's see, we will move him up to AAA Omaha, and then much more importantly than that, ensure that he is on the spring training roster. Update our lineups here. And Davis slots right in against left-handers as a potential number 5 hitter and our right fielder. So that could be a big acquisition for us. And because it is not a guaranteed contract at the major league level yet, we've still got money to chase after Nick. Now, I think Nick's just playing games with us at this point. I don't think he really wants to sign with us. I think he's using us to just boost the amount of money that the teams he really wants to sign with are going to offer him. But he would still be a nice addition to our team. Whew. Says he wants $12.4 million. He's just using us. He doesn't want to sign with us. We're not offering him 12.4, but I'm going to offer him 11.5. And he is going to sign with somebody else for less money than we've offered him. He really doesn't want to come to Kansas City, I don't think. And I think we're going to see him sign with one of those other teams for less than the $11.5 million that we're offering him. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, Nick says he wants to sign, and now he says he likes what he's seeing from Detroit. So everyone is supposedly in the mix for him. He wants $13.8 million from us. Yeah, he's just playing with us here. So I don't think he's serious about joining us. I've kind of gotten a little addicted to the idea of having his arm in our bullpen. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm actually going to offer him less than we offered him last time and see what he thinks of that. No, we're not going to give you a no trade clause. Give you $12.5 million for 2 years, team option for the second season. Not that we're going to really want to trade him away. Actually, we will include the no trade clause. He's willing to think about it. You know, the issue is that we're going to end up spending so much on him that it may hamper our ability to bring up, to keep Brennan Davis on the team with the fact that his contract's going to need to be $4 million. We'll have to, when we get to the end of camp, we're going to be really right up against it as far as money. Actually, you can see that we're $2.6 million with the money that we offered. So it's going to probably require a little bit of gymnastics to fit ourselves under the player payroll that we should when all is said and done, if we do sign Big Nick to that contract. But we'll figure things out. And of course, I had talked myself into thinking that Nick really wanted to sign with us, but I knew he didn't. The Mets $25.6 million over 2 years, so I think we're just going to move on from Nick at this point. We don't really need the help in the bullpen. It'll give us some extra money for taking on some contracts potentially as we get closer to the when we did screw this up at the start of spring training. I forgot with those supplemental picks that we got to increase our draft budget, because with that supplemental first and second rounder, we're going to need a little more money to sign people. So I did mess up a little bit by not updating that before spring training. Kind of got wrapped up with other stuff. Hopefully if we have extra money available, given that we're in a pretty good financial position, maybe ownership will let us spend a little more than we budgeted. But that was just a delinquent error on my part, not correcting that after we got those supplemental picks for moving on from Diaz and Melendez. So that was a screw up by me. Hopefully it won't hurt us too much when we get into the draft. But we are going to move on from Nick Alojak now and let him sign wherever he wants to sign. Looking at the batters who are available, Tyler Stevenson's still out there. Would be interesting at catcher without a doubt. But I don't want him for multiple years. I really don't want him for $11 million. And he claims the Cubs have made him an offer. So good luck. Hope you enjoy that, Tyler. And the calendar has moved into March, and we're going to focus on finishing up spring training and preparing for the upcoming season in our next episode. It's been a busy off season for these Royals. Obviously, the big acquisition is bringing on Dylan Cruz to bat in the middle of our order and play left field for us. But pretty happy that we've got Carter Binns and Ivan Herrera in camp as potential catchers to back up Angelo Bolden. I think we are fine there. I think between Aiden Harris, Jackson Chourio, Rich Alvarado, and Angel Galindo, we're going to be able to find a good backup infielder. And I love the fact that we've got Brennan Davis in camp as a potential fifth outfielder also. So I think we've definitely improved the team. It's a different team. We got rid of a lot of high-priced and top-level talent that we lost in free agency. There's no doubt about it. But I think we're going to break camp with a team that can be very competitive. So we will focus on finishing up spring training and maybe some final revisions to the 40-man roster and the 26 roster in our next episode, and we'll get the 2032 season started also. But until then, thanks so much for watching. Love to hear your comments down below, and hope you have a great day.